It's 8:47 p.m. You're still online. Your inbox is finally quiet. Slack has slowed down. The spreadsheet is done. The deck is cleaned up. You solved 3 problems today that technically weren't even yours. And yet, when promotion season comes around, your name isn't mentioned. Again, your manager says you're reliable, critical to the team, someone we can count on. But somehow that doesn't translate into more money, or more scope, or more authority. You're exhausted, but you're not advancing. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The company is very happy with you being busy. What it's not interested in is you growing. Most employees think career growth is a simple formula. Work hard, deliver results, be helpful, stay visible. But what most people never see is that busyness and growth are rewarded by completely different systems. And if you don't understand that distinction, you can spend years trapped in motion without moving anywhere. If you want to stop getting blindsided by workplace systems nobody explains, subscribe. Because the busy but not growing trap isn't about laziness, it's about architecture. Most people believe growth is the natural outcome of effort. You put in more hours, you take on more tasks, you become indispensable. Promotion should follow. That sounds fair. Until you look at how organizations actually operate. Companies don't promote the most overloaded person. They promote the person whose role can expand without destabilizing the current machine. And if you are the machine, you are very hard to replace. That's the first hidden mechanism. When you become the reliable one, you're not building leverage. You're reducing it because now your manager depends on you to keep today functioning. And managers are not rewarded for risking today in order to improve your tomorrow. From the outside, it looks like recognition. Structurally, it's containment. Here's what's really happening behind the scenes. Inside most companies, there are 2 tracks running at the same time. Track 1 is output, tasks completed, fires handled, deadlines met. Track 2 is trajectory, scope expanded, decisions influenced, problems defined rather than just solved. The problem, track 1 keeps you busy. Track 2 gets you promoted. And most high performers are so consumed by output that they never step onto trajectory. And because trajectory requires something risky, letting go of tasks. What most employees never realize is that growth is measured by what you no longer do. If you're still deeply involved in execution 2 years later, the system reads that as role stability, not advancement readiness. You're excellent where you are, which means you stay where you are. There's a second layer to this. Busyness feels productive, and it feels safe. It feels virtuous. You're responsive, you're involved, you're needed, but busyness also hides you. When you're buried in tasks, you don't define priorities, you don't shape strategy, you don't sit in rooms where direction is decided, you're reacting. And the system quietly ranks reactive roles lower than directional ones, even if they require more effort, even if they create more immediate value. And think about performance reviews. They rarely say, handled 427 emails flawlessly. They say, expanded impact, led cross-functional initiatives, influenced stakeholders, drove strategic outcomes. Those phrases aren't accidental. They're signals. And the signal being evaluated isn't effort. It's perceived scale. The busy employee optimizes for completion. The growing employee optimizes for expansion. Those are different games. What makes this harder to see is that managers often reinforce the trap. They praise you for being dependable. They give you more responsibility, but at the same level. They trust you with urgent issues. It feels like upward movement, but it's horizontal expansion. More weight, same ceiling. And here's the part nobody says out loud. If you are too good at absorbing chaos, the organization will feed you chaos because you lower friction. And companies are engineered to reward friction reduction in the short term, not necessarily long-term career growth. So the more you prove you can handle everything, the more everything comes to you. until your job becomes a permanent state of urgency. Meanwhile, someone else, possibly less busy, is sitting in meetings you don't have time to attend. They're not solving as many problems, they're defining which problems matter. That distinction changes careers. The invisible consequence of staying busy without shifting trajectory is this: your professional identity solidifies. You become the executor, the fixer, the safe pair of hands. And identities in organizations are sticky. Once the system categorizes you, future opportunities get filtered through that perception. Leadership role opens up, they'll say you're invaluable where you are. Strategic project emerges, they'll assume you're too tied up in operations. Promotion discussion happens, they'll argue there's no backfill for you. The signal was there, you just didn't know it was a signal. Over time, this leads to something more dangerous than stagnation. It leads to invisible salary compression, because raises are often calibrated to role scope, not effort. If your scope hasn't expanded structurally, your compensation won't either. You might get small increases, but you won't break into the next band, and compensation bands are not emotional, they're mathematical. You can work 60 hours a week and still be capped because the system sees your role as contained. Right? That's the trap. You feel stretched. The company sees you as stable. So how do you escape? Not by working harder, not by proving yourself again, but by shifting what you optimize for. Growth inside companies is less about volume and more about visibility of leverage. Leverage means, can you make decisions that change outcomes? Can you influence resources? Can you reduce dependency on yourself? Can your absence not break the system? That last one sounds counterintuitive. But if everything collapses without you, the company doesn't see a leader. It sees a bottleneck. Escaping the trap requires deliberately redesigning your role. That means delegating tasks even when you're better at them, automating processes instead of manually fixing them, training others to replace you in execution, and asking for exposure to planning conversations, attaching your name to initiatives, not just deliverables. This feels uncomfortable because your identity might be built on being the hardest worker in the room. But effort is not the highest currency in corporate systems. Perceived scale is. And here's the deeper truth. The system doesn't reward what drains you. It rewards what expands its own capacity. If you only increase output, you're increasing throughput. If you increase scope, you're increasing organizational capability. Only one of those is promotable. So the next time you feel proud of being slammed with work, pause. Ask yourself, am I building a ladder or reinforcing the floor I'm standing on? Because the busy but not growing trap isn't about exhaustion. It's about misaligned signals. The company will not automatically convert your effort into elevation. It will convert your effort into stability. And stability is valuable, but only at the level you're already in. If you don't consciously shift from executor to expander, the system will quietly decide that you prefer execution, and it will reward you accordingly, with more work. At the same level, the ceiling only works if you don't know it's there.